So this week's project is getting these cleaned up. These are walkway covers in the center of the engine room, down in the V. It's so the V is flat, plus it elevates it as it's a bilge runoff area. The water will collect and run down to the bilge, so you don't want to be walking through that all the time. So these wooden covers with aluminum diamond plate were installed in the boat. You can see, where over the years the grime had collected on the backside, but that's fine. That's why it's there, so you're not walking through that grime. So, been doing a lot of research online about how to clean diamond plate, and I'm going to take you through that. So, as nasty as this is, and these aren't going to become perfect because they were walkways, so it's not like the side of a semi or a trailer with diamond plate on it, or a toolbox in a truck. This had walking traffic, and so there was that just, the wear and tear on it, and the staining and the etching. But went from this to this, so you can still see it's not perfect, but we're going to take you through how we got from here to here. It's a little bit of work, but this diamond plate is currently at about $50 a square foot, so this would be $400 or $500 just to replace these pieces of diamond plate. Plus I have more in the engine room that doesn't have foot traffic, that's in much better condition. So as I learn to do this outside of the boat, I can then go down in the engine room, because some of those pieces are covering like the shafts from the transmissions back to the back of the engine room, and so those would be a lot more difficult to get out and to do this too. So learn here and then go down in the engine room on those nicer pieces and polish them out as well. So here we go. So I've just got this in the back of the four-wheeler. I actually was testing another polishing wheel that I may try to use. It seems to take this grime off the best. Prior to the wheel, literally everything I read online was, use vinegar, white vinegar and water at about a 3-to-1 mix of water to vinegar. The acids will help break down some of this oxidation, but there's also etching in here that it doesn't seem to do very well. The next was some navel jellies and some other types of phosphoric acids, but there's mixed reviews on that, especially with aluminum. Then I found Barkeeper's Friend, and it actually has a mild abrasive and an acid. It doesn't scratch the surface, but it does help get this cleaned up. So that with a kind of a 3-inch Scotch-Brite pad, we'll get this all wiped down. We do then spray it with some vinegar before we start the buffing process. So I'll come back in a few minutes. We'll show you this after we've done the cleaning process, before the actual buffing and polishing process. Okay, now as you see, a lot of the grime is off. There's still some of that etched staining, the oxidation pretty deep there. It's hard to get out. What we're going to come back to next is I do the vinegar mixed with the water. I haven't tried it stronger. I'm doing about 2 parts water to 1 part vinegar. It'll actually help take some of this off, and then I actually do mix it with the Barkeepers, and I'll do another pass with that before we start the buffing wheel process. Okay, as you can see, it's cleaner. We still got some oxidation, you know, in a lot of places. Actually, more what I call etching, more than oxidation. The oxidation is that dull, almost chalky white look. This has more splotching, etching. It's just years. I don't know how long these have been in the boat, but they've been in there quite a long time. It may be original to the boat, I'm not sure. And so, you know, 40 years possibly of salt water and people walking on them. So they've held up fairly well. What I'm actually going to test here is I've got a little bit of a wheel on a drill. It's a small one, but I want to test a little area to see how it does with some of the staining and the etching. I'd seen online where some people suggested a brass brush, you know, like a wire brush that's really soft, but I've tried that and it doesn't do well on the aluminum, even the brass. It leaves some pretty significant scratching. So now this is just a little wheel I happen to have laying around from a job a while back, but I'm going to test up here where this etching's really bad. It may be just another prep step that I want to try to do. So what we have here are the airway pads. This is a vinyl kind of buff, real soft. Use it with some green abrasive, and they call that the color coat for kind of your final shine. The orange typically used with a brown, more aggressive, firmer, more abrasive, and then the blue is actually stiffest, the most abrasive. I didn't find a abrasive stick that matched the aggressive cut, so I'm going to try this dry and we're going to see if it matches this as far as what it'll take off. I found the orange with the brown abrasive stick just doesn't quite cut this stuff out as you've seen on that other panel. So let's give this a try. And so unfortunately it just doesn't remove it, so it's just not abrasive enough. So I'm gonna have to find me maybe a larger size version of this wheel. I think the home improvement stores have them because it really looks like it does a much better job of getting that etched oxidation off. Once I have that off, then I can go through the polishing stages, and it really should pop then. I may have to go back and redo the other one. It's going to be a little more time consuming, but I think it'll give it a much nicer final finish. So I'm going to go have to find me a wheel, and we'll come back and continue the video. So after kind of examining that, I'm not sure that I am going to get one of those wheels because it really does leave some scratching, and after I cut it with this wheel, that scratching wasn't coming out. And so, you know, do you go with the etching or do you go with the scratching? So I think I'm just gonna, so I've used my brown compound on this harsh wheel. I'm gonna go again with the brown compound on the orange wheel, and then we'll come in and we'll use the green compound on the finishing wheel. and we'll just kind of see what it looks like. I'll show you the next time. After you cut it with the brown compound, it leaves a real gray residue. So you come in with some mineral spirits and you wipe that off, and you don't do that on the finishing, but you do it on any of the cutting or the with the brown, the all-purpose compounds, the heavier abrasive compounds, and then with the green, which is a more polishing compound. The experts I've seen online call it coloring the metal. It's what gives it, I guess, that luster. This one's not going to be with that much luster just because of this etching oxidation that we can't seem to get through. But and again, we don't want to go buy all new diamond plate. Just the cost is kind of prohibitive for that. So keep following along. We're making progress. One additional thing is you can always kind of look at the different stages. You can take your product cans, you can set them on there, and you can see how much reflection you're getting. Certainly right now, not much, but as we get a little further along, I think it's going to pop out a little more. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we post up a new video, whether it's a boat, our farm, some of our motorcycle adventures, whatever strikes your interest. Follow along with us. Okay, we've thrown the orange wheel on. Now we'll use some of that brown compound and we'll hit it before we do the green and the finishing wheel. Okay, so now we will wipe off that residue with mineral spirits. I've gotten a newer rag. Everything that I've seen online says that even when these rags get really black, that they'll still pick up the residue, but in this case, I'm gonna just go ahead and wipe this down now. In the last step, we won't wipe it down. We will only wipe it down with a dry microfiber. So you can see that's taken up a bunch of that polish and oxidation that's pulled to the surface, sitting on the surface, I guess. And it's going to dull it again a little bit. Not too bad though. I'll just move this around a little bit, and gonna get a fresh area. I'm trying to obviously get as much of this off as I can. You also notice that when I was working the wheel, I kind of put the rouge or the compound on, and then I spread it, and then I hit it, kind of just in a cross motion. But then it's important with diamond plate, you go with these arrows, and then you come back and you go with these lines. And what that does is that allows it to work all the way around each one of these diamond, I guess the rays of the diamond plate, and gets it all the way around. And that's where you'll find most of your residue sits, is up against those. And so that's why wiping this off at this stage, mineral spirits, because there's quite a bit of it on there, as you can see. And in the last stage, just a dry microfiber. The color coat doesn't pull as much of this up and deposit it on the metal, so it's not as heavy of a cleaning. It's more of a buffing, I guess. Clean as we can. And we're going to change wheels over to the white wheel, and then we're going to throw the last step on there, and we'll see how it turns out. Like I said, I opted not to do that. It's not making, it takes the oxidation off, but scratching. I may continue to look for maybe just a little, one of those type of wheels, but maybe just a little less abrasive. And I need to find one that's much bigger, because it'll take forever and a day to do it that way. All right, on to the next step. One thing I haven't shown is kind of in between and starting each step, you'll want to rake the wheel, they call it. And so it's just an abrasive, almost looks a little bit like a cheese grater. You want to make sure you know the right motion. You want to dial your RPMs down. All right, I want to get it going away from me. Get it going away from me. Just kind of cleans it, frays it out a little more for better polishing, and then you know, especially a new wheel, it gets any of the loose fibers off initially, so they're not, you know, going into your compound. So I'm going to speed it up here, and we're going to hit this with the polish coat and see how it turns out. So that's it. It's not perfect by any means, but considering the foot traffic, the wear, the age, not too bad. It's not a mirror finish, it's not chrome, but it's certainly better than it was, and it will brighten up that engine room, reflect a lot of light, and since it's the foot traffic panels, not as worried about those because they're going to get grubby as time goes on, but on the other parts of the engine room that don't get the foot traffic, we'll get those polished up. We'll do those in another video. We'll show you before and after. Let's check that out now, and I'll put a before and after up on these, and we got one more panel to go. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Let me know if you know a better way, especially to get these I kind of call them, it's not corrosion, but it's almost like etching, like salt etching. You know, haven't found anything yet, and I haven't seen anything online specific to that. But throw that down in the comments as well. Thanks for watching.